Does this change your view of the trade that wasn't?
Well, first, let me say this, because this was really the first emotion I felt listening to it. It's a great listen. I was thinking when he said, and people, we didn't play the whole thing, but when it was hours. He was at the facility for hours before he met the GM Eric DeCosta and the head coach Jesse.
Can I tell you something? I'm gone. I'm gone.
Well, okay.
I think you said 5. Was it 5 hours? Did he say?
Well, he said he was there an hour before the physical, and he still hadn't met him.
Right.
So and then he has the physical and then meets him later. But like
I'm out of there.
The fact that go ahead.
Sorry. Well, but I'm thinking when he finally met him, he said the energy was off.
Yep.
And they said, like, we don't know how to say this, but our doctors have some concerns about your knee and what we saw. I was putting my thinking to him, and he said it. He was terrified. Imagine at that point, he's really thinking, is my knee really jacked up? Like, am I never going to be the same? And he still may have those thoughts. He talked to his doctor. He reassured him. But he still may have those thoughts. So I was just thinking, I felt for him.
Yeah.
Because I was like, in that moment, he probably was really like,
worried about
what?
His career.
Like, yeah. So, but honestly, to answer your question, this just bolstered. Now, I get the skepticism. And maybe they did just, think about it for a few days and say, wow, we giving up 2 firsts for a guy, 29, coming off injury. Maybe that I get that, and maybe that's what happened. But my view is that their doctors really saw something that maybe another team will pass, but for their doctors, it was something. And the reason I say that I'm bolstered in that belief is because I think when he was at the facility and it was a long time before the match, I think they're talking to the doctors like, there's a problem? And then start thinking, what are we going to do? Like, how do we get out of this?
This is why you are a great guy, Chris Broussard.
I'm just saying, I mean, that might be it. But I mean, look, they're adults. They're a great organization. I know they're not a great organization.
I think Wildes might be worried the great organization went to the Giants.
Harbaugh is a great guy.
Right.
He is a great guy.
I mean, how much?
This whole ordeal was not a strike in the great organization category.
No, but I'm saying, when I say great organization, I mean they thought about, before they made this trade, they thought about, are we really going to do this?
Oh, yes.
Right? They brainstormed, they came to an agreement. So for them to then all of a sudden get cold feet, unless you think they saw some of the media comments and thought,
they
are we
found
doing the wrong thing?
Trey's price was lower than they thought. So here,
according to Schefter, they had been talking with Trey. But let me say this lastly, Nick.
Go ahead.
The Cowboys doctor was one of the doctors that analyzed the scans. Yep. And the fact that the Cowboys never, decided not to get back in it, from what we know, no other teams are trying to trade for Crosby. So I just think I think they saw something that maybe made them say, you know what, in 3 years, he's not going to be the same player. Might be great this year, not in 3 years. And then they pulled out.
So the part of it that, to me, I classify, there were 2 things that I classified as actual news. Mm-hmm. One might be petty and silly, and the other is noteworthy. The petty and silly one is this. I am surprised they did not fly him private there. When he got on the plane, he is about to become the 2nd highest paid player in franchise history. They have traded 2 first-round picks for him, and they know, because Baltimore is not a huge hub, that if you want to fly commercial direct from Vegas, you have to go to D.C. And so they said, you know what? It's $30,000 to charter a private plane. Not going to do it. We'll put you first class, and then have you ride for 2 hours.
They flew him back private, but I agree.
Right.
They should have
No, I think the Raiders flew him back private.
Oh, really?
I think so.
That part I don't know. I know he flew back.
I read the Raiders.
I thought he might have flown himself.
But they should have flown him private.
So that was just noteworthy. Totally. And by the way, I've never flown private in my life. I'm not like acting like, first class. But typically for something like this.
Absolutely.
That struck me as odd, particularly because they knew he was then going to have to take a 2-hour car ride from D.C.
With your knee.
Right.
Yeah.
That was extra noteworthy to me when I then found out, according to Crosby, he did not see DaCosta or the new head coach, Jesse Minter, the first hour he was in the building pre-physical. So whatever discussion they're doing post-physical, before their doctors have seen the knee, the head coach and the GM don't meet him. Like that part to me was stunning.
Should have greeted him on the tarmac.
Right, and not on that. So that's the first thing where I'm like, wait, did they really have cold feet before they saw the scans?
Yeah, this is what's so interesting and so messy for so many different reasons. And I'm both excited to have this conversation and hesitant to have this conversation. Okay. First off, let's just talk to the more practical side of things in terms of meeting people and getting there. When you're an NFL athlete and you're an organization like the Baltimore Ravens, I honestly genuinely, and I think we should admit this, I don't know when it's okay to meet a GM, an owner, the head coach. Like, I think it should be sooner rather than later. But at the same time, your relationship as a player with a GM, an owner, the head coach, all of that, it just wouldn't, it just wouldn't surprise me that like you don't meet those guys right now. I think when you have obviously a scheduled meeting, right? Like it's not like you're just in the building or something. It would make sense that someone of true importance, and again I don't know if it needs to be Jesse Minter in that moment. Like that's what I'm trying to get at. Like I don't know if there's this gold standard way to have that meeting, right? To have that interaction. So what's like what amount of time makes sense? Right. If I don't know if Crosby is just like sitting in a waiting room, right? Like reading a magazine and stuff and he's like, oh, they haven't seen me. I've been here for an hour and a half and they haven't seen me. Right? It's not that either, but I don't know, realistically what that means. Now, obviously, Maxx Crosby Nick outlined that this is going to be one of the most expensive players that they had, like all this type of stuff. So obviously a huge portion, a huge component of the Baltimore Ravens. And so you want that clear respect, but in terms of what an actual acceptable timeline, I honestly genuinely have no idea. I really don't. I mean, like, does it make sense for him to first get there and get a tour of the facility and you have someone guiding him around, or does it make sense that dude, the moment you walk into that building you have Schneider, Roseman, whoever, right? Like you are there right now, like that is who you meet right away, and I could see that being what it should be, right? I could see that you're there to meet the person right away. Not the assistant, not the vice of this and that, right? Like you're there to meet the person because at the end of the day, you're in control of all of this. This is your absolute number one priority. Like any of the other times that you've lived your life where you've had to wait for someone, right? Doctors, whatever it may be, you're not the ultimate priority because you're just a person, and that other person who you're waiting to see also has many other responsibilities and other priorities potentially. But when it comes to sports and this type of situation, this is what I really actually appreciate it. It's like it truly is the only thing that matters in that moment. There is nothing else. It's the most clarity and it was one of the moments that I had watching football, especially when I realized just how much I love sports, and I'd look at some of these athletes and some of these people with envy. If I'm going through like a hard time in my life, I'll look at them and be like, man, like I am having to figure out all this type of stuff. I'm unhappy, etc., and I'm like, all Patrick Mahomes has to do right now is just play football. That's like that's the absolute only thing that truly matters in this moment. It's just he gets to play football that whole week. No one gets to hang anything else over his head that whole week leading up to Sunday because the absolute and everyone in his family understands, yeah, man. It's November. The only thing that Patrick Mahomes needs to worry about right now is football. There's nothing else. No other nonsense, no other obligation, no other prior. It's just an I appreciate that and it's how you kind of stay focused. Anyone else in that Baltimore Ravens organization like this takes precedent. So you could be like, well, listen, to run a team it's really busy, the GM has to do this and he has to do that. There's lots of other work that he's doing, the owner, and it's just like, well, this is probably the ultimate priority. This is the thing that ultimately matters most. You're in control of your SK. You're the one that's in control of all this. You hold all the power. So go meet Maxx Crosby in an appropriate time. Go do that right now. The other layer of this in terms of like he didn't see anyone prior to even the physical, and then there was all this time the physical itself, the scans itself were the doctors, and this is where I don't know, and maybe if you guys have information let me know. I don't know if they had access to any of that medical information prior to that when you're actually going through the formal physical. Is there a specific set time? And honestly, the way how some of this stuff works, is there also a specific privacy route that a football team takes that is going to be like there already is having that? This is beyond even just things like HIPAA and whatnot that everyone always tries to bring up, but just in terms of like if I see a doctor at hospital A and now I want to go see another doctor at hospital B. The way how you can get those records sent to hospital B, or it can be very straightforward. I just wonder, and again I don't have this information. Is there a different, more secure, is also just in terms of how the NFL has it mapped out, where there has to be a very specific protocol that has to be followed, that you can't just be sending medical records all over the place, because then other team, again I honestly don't know, I honestly don't know, and they haven't said, like they're not mapping out right now a specific protocol, just like how free agency has a specific time when you can do this, and then a spec, the anti-tamper. All that type of stuff, like it's specific at 3 o'clock, this is when this can happen, and in terms of the physical process within the NFL structure, is it very much like we can't look at your medical records until Wednesday at 3 o'clock, whatever it may be, and when we bring in an outside doctor, the way how we do that is it has to go through this, that, and we, like I don't know, and I don't really know how to get that information either, so that's why if anyone actually does know, please definitely let me know, because the way how Nick is framing this is that essentially they were already acting weird before anyone from the Ravens camp could have ever even looked at the scans or even made any type of conclusion about, Maxx Crosby's knee. And if that's the case, well then yeah, that does make this whole thing get weirder and weirder and weirder, and does point to the fact that yeah, the Ravens just, got anxious. Now, the whole thing about like what you could see in the scans and whatnot, guys, I just really fail to understand how you're looking at some of these scans and these doctors are like, nope. They know what he had to have gotten done. I have to imagine that is going to be like in terms of the actual procedures that he got done. The Ravens had to have had an understanding already of what was actually done. Therefore, their doctors and Dallas Cowboys doctors, etc. Whether they actually had the ability to get the actual scans themselves and run their own physical, they had to have known. There's no way that the only information they have is just knee procedure and they're like, okay, what the heck does that mean? They had to have known he got blank and blank done. So therefore, now looking at a scan for them to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what I'm seeing. I find that incredibly hard to believe. Incredibly hard to believe. And in terms of seeing other doctors now, like when you're looking at some of these scans, this is why you get second, third opinions and whatnot. When you're looking at some of these scans, if you're looking at just like a basic X-ray for instance, right? And then again, this is I've had multiple MRIs, CAT scan, X-rays, all the good stuff. With contrast, without contrast, all really fun things. My most controversial scans were my X-rays on my clavicle because it wasn't healing. And so I had lots of doctors look at it and they run their own scans and again CT scan, all that type of stuff. And then you can see the reality is with some of these scans, you can make an argument for anything. That's the reality of the situation. You absolutely can make an argument for anything. And I had one doctor who was like, you have a non-union. Your bone is not going to heal anymore. I went to another doctor where he's like, well, I can see some callus building. I don't think you're going to, like, and I can't document this as a formal non-union because according to blah blah blah, according to the whoever they have to follow the rules, it was either through insurance or through, whatever some other accreditation type thing. Was like, it would be wrong for me to say that you have a non-union right now. And essentially, if I say that you have a non-union right now, and then we go and do surgery and now your shoulder gets messed up and I say, you told me that I had a non-union, that I was going to need surgery, I could then in turn say, you didn't wait to the 6-month window, like I can't actually diagnose you with non-union until 6 months. But then I went to many other doctors were like, this ain't happening. And then I went to another doctor, a third I saw 4 doctors, I believe, 4 doctors and I got all different opinions. That's what made it so confusing and so overwhelming. It was like, and so you can see you can make an argument and see anything. So just because one doctor is like, this is not working, that doesn't make it the end all be all. Now, I will tell you this though that the Maxx Crosby's doctor, the one who actually did the surgery, is obviously going to have the most optimistic and most favorable view. Whereas another doctor could genuinely be like, that's great, but I don't think this is going to heal the way in which you think it's going to heal, etc., etc. And so that's why this whole thing just gets messier and messier for so many different reasons based on my understanding of what Crosby had done with some of the cartilage as well as specifically like his meniscus. You're just not looking at a meniscus and saying this isn't good. None of these like and even what Bruce saying like I think you'll be fine this year but not in a few years. That's every single football player. Okay. That's every single football player out there, right? It like this isn't a situation where it's like you're trying to figure out what will Maxx Crosby look like for the next 20 years. Any of the stuff that he got done right now, I think you would have all the reason to believe that he will be able to be great for the next 2-3 years or so. And beyond that, just like every single one of these players, their knees are going to be ugly. They're going to be wrecked. It's going to hurt to squat down. Patrick Mahomes most likely for the rest of his life playing with his kids and whatnot. Hey, he's going to be sore. He's going to be when they jump on him, he's going like, no. That's daddy's bad knee. Come on. Like that's again, I think Kelce, Travis Kelce, and Jason Kelce for that matter. I quote it all the time because it means a lot to me as someone who's been injured so much. Like it just is what it is. Jason Kelce in his documentary was like, playing with my kids hurts. Getting down to the ground, it hurts. Travis Kelce was like, there's not a day goes by that I don't feel every single surgery I've ever had. Like, that's just the way it goes. So, this whole idea of like, well, I don't know about this and that. The chances that Maxx Crosby had some sort of surgical procedure and it's just like we just don't know if he's ever gonna I do not see how that's the reality of the situation. Do I see it affecting his quality of his life, his ability to feel sore, his ability to just feel less pain, his ability to again to be able to run around and be on the ground and squat and do all that? Absolutely. I think all of that stuff is permanently compromised for the rest of his life like it is for me just some guy who was not an elite, pass rusher. So it's just like we can always twist that conversation. We can always twist that conversation. What I take issue is that they're painting the picture as if this is like a situation like with, oh my god I can't think of his name right now. Oh my god, I had his shoes, from basketball. Oh my gosh, what the heck is his name? Tracy McGrady, right? A situation like that, there was certain knee procedures back then that were done that were like they just don't do anymore because it destroyed your knee. And they realized that, that's what also happened to, the other number 1 overall pick. I can't think of his name right now. Oh, Lamar Odom. That doesn't sound right. I think that's not Lamar ODM. Forget who it is. But that's not my understanding that Maxx Crosby is in. So to me, any of these other we saw scans and we didn't like them. We were concerned. Dude, you look at anyone's knee right now in the NFL and you're going to be like, I'm seeing a lot of arthritis in your future. It's like, I'm seeing a few surgeries in your future. It's like, yeah, obviously. So, that's why this whole thing has always been incredibly messy. But then when we're trying to figure out the timeline and it's just like you're talking about now dealing with the NFL, that is notoriously hidden and understandably so. All this stuff isn't free of access for us. We don't know how all of this is run because it's proprietary. It's behind closed doors. It's how it's like, do you exactly know how Amazon and Google and YouTube and all that? Of course not. And the NFL is no different. So, and again, even when you want to talk about etiquette of like first class versus private. Yeah. In my mind, I'm like, yeah, definitely private, but then I'm also like I assume private is right, but also like I don't know. I'm like, I don't know. And I've never been in first class, man. So, I'm like, I don't even know what first class is like. I mean, I know what it's like walking by and seeing it in movies and stuff, but like so yeah, I think this is one of those conversations you have to be careful about the things you have to be careful and accurate with some of the things that you're saying because you don't want to bring in other things that are irrelevant or sound bad but actually don't hold weight or sound good but also don't hold weight. You want to actually just be like we got to look beyond all of that, right? It's like you don't want to cry wolf. You want to actually legitimately find the wolf and discuss that rather than some of the extra stuff. But that's what makes it messy. That's why I was actually kind of excited to have this conversation because it is messy. It is actually genuinely messy. The one weirdest thing to me, this is actually the weirdest thing to me, and I wish I said this in the very beginning, Maxx Crosby's quote, no one will ever admit what the real truth is. And he said on both sides, both sides won't actually admit what the real truth is. Why would Maxx Crosby not admit what the real truth is? That's suspect as well. That's also kind like when that is actually what caused my ears to perk up immediately when he said both sides won't actually admit what the truth and it's like well you're Maxx Crosby. You got the mic. You got the podcast. You got everyone's eyes and ears. What is the whole truth though? So, it's a weird situation. It's a weird situation. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Maxx Crosby and in all of this? How does this all land for you? Are you over it? Let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment. It's whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get to some discussions. Let's get to some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be a part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up as it really does help visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.